A question I get all the time is, Brie, what if no one likes my zine? Hi, hello, welcome all my zine machines, and if you're new here, my name is Brie and I love zines. If you don't know what a zine is, simply put in the most basic, simplest terms, it's like a handmade magazine. But unlike traditional magazines, zines are made to express yourself, to show off your creative side, to vent about something. Literally, there are no rules to it. You can make a zine about anything. Just think of it as a booklet about anything you want. And I know people get so overwhelmed because of how easy that explanation is that it's easy to overthink it, but it's just a booklet about whatever you want. They're less expensive, they're DIY, they're accessible, they're punk, they're messy, they're, sometimes they're really crappily made, but that's the essence of zines. That's what makes them so special. And today we're going to talk about how to pimp your zine, how to make your zine more interesting. I think, just a disclaimer, I think all zines are interesting because they're a reflection of the creators. But I know a lot of people have a hard time putting themselves out there, wanting to share their work, because what if it gets rejected? While I understand that, my advice is always going to be just share your zine scared. That's advice I give because I live by what I preach, y'all. I'm not just out here saying like,
this is the way to do it and you'll never get your feelings hurt and everything will be easy peachy keen.
Like, I'm not that kind of YouTuber, I'm not that kind of person. My advice to get over the fear of sharing your zine and to also just think that your zine is interesting and worth reading is just to share it even though you're scared. I do that all the time. I said in one of my very first YouTube videos that every time I share a zine online or in person or whatever, my can I say this on YouTube? Everybody has one of these, the thing that you sit on, and a part of mine clenches when I have to share my zine. I don't know. I guess all I'm trying to say is that I learned very early on that if I mull over every little detail of my zine or over prepare or think too much about it, I'll avoid doing it altogether. And that's what we want to avoid, right? We want to fix that. But how do we do that? Easier said than done, I know. But the first step is just to share it scared. And does that mean that every time I share my zine scared, it's accepted with loving and open arms and everybody loves me and I become popular and I get rich and famous off of my zines? No. But what sharing your work scared does for you, at least it's what it's taught me, is that if I like and approve of my work, I'll stop asking everybody else to like and approve my work for me. We want to be accepted. We want our stuff to be liked. I understand that. I feel like that all the time. But in order to be what I think is a true creative, is just to create. You don't think about all the stuff about if someone will like it or whatever until after it's already done. I feel like a lot of artists, we stop ourselves from even just doing that part, from the creation part, because we'll oftentimes think,
well, nobody's gonna like this anyway, so why should I even try?
No. Are you listening? Don't do that to yourself. We don't want to be cowards, okay? I'm a really firm believer in when you share your work, even though it's difficult to do so, you really build trust within yourself. Doing hard things teaches you that you can do hard things and survive it. And I know this is all easier said than done, so that's why I'm making this video, to give you tips on how to trick people into reading your zine. Just kidding. I don't think there really is any trick that you can do to make people like your work, but there are some ways that you can make more people interested in your work. So if you're having a hard time with self-doubt and insecurity, first of all, I just want to say that's so normal. You're okay. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with you. There's nothing bad about feeling bad about yourself and your work. That's totally normal, but we want to work on ways of overcoming that, right? We want to work on becoming better, I have 3 tips that may help you feel more confident in your work. These are not tricks per se. These are just things to incorporate into your zines to give them a little bit more oomph, a little bit more character, a little bit more personality. So let's jump straight on into the 3 ways that you can pimp your zine. Okay, so the first way that you can spruce up your zines is by just focusing on how you bind them. So I have a few examples here of ways that different zines are bound. And yes, these are all mini zines, but you can do these with standard size zines as well, which are the folio type zines. So for example, a zine this size. You can also mess around with how you bind it. This one is just stapled, but say you're tired of how that looks or want to make people more interested in how your work is presented. By experimenting with different binds, you can do that and it'll get more people interested. So here is One Confused and Conflicted Feminist Guide to Self-Care and Self-Doubt, I think. And this is by Sonali, which you can find here at this username. I love Sonali Zines. This one's really cool. And as you can see, it's just stapled with a staple. This is a type of way that you can bind your zines, and that's great. But say that you want to spruce things up and you only have access to staples, right? You don't have the means or the patience to figure out different ways to bind. You can also use a colored staple. So this is a basic standard staple. Great zine, by the way, by Sonali that you should definitely check out. But here is another one called Compton Tenants Union, and this is by a bunch of people. There's little snippets in there. This one's really cool. I really do like this zine, and it's a great example of using different colored staples. So as you can see, if you look closely, these staples are red. So that's one way that you can spruce up your zine making and make it look more interesting to people if you're concerned that maybe they won't pick it up, by having something that's eye-catching or just subtly different than how zines are typically bound. That really draws in a lot of attention. So I really like this one. They used red staples. They're very easy to find, just like where you would find any other staple at like a stationery store. I think these are the staples that I use sometimes. You can easily find colored staples too. I like to go to the Dollar Tree or Daiso or Michael's. They have colored staples as well. And you can pick up different colored staples for your zines. Another way that you can bind your zines is by using yarn. This is a really cute one. It's called The World is on Fire and Women Are Burning by Wallflower Studios. This is made out of thick cardstock. So the way that you can make this more stable in the long run and last longer, instead of stapling it, you can use yarn. And that helps make sure you have a stronger bind. And it also is eye-catching. Like, how much do you want to bet that this person, this creator, when they table at events, or if they post this online, or if they give these out in person, that this draws a lot of attention? Of course, the content is important, but being able to draw in someone by just sprucing up and changing how you bind the zine is a great way to break that initial hesitation that someone may have for picking up a zine. This, I would definitely pick something like this up. I would be interested and impressed by the content later, but initially my eyes are drawn to how this is bound. This is very creative. This is very cute. And then it makes me pick up the zine, and look at, you can see on the inside that the yarn is binding it. This is very simple to do. You can use yarn, you can use thread, you can use anything you'd like. Poke some holes in where you would usually put staples, and then thread this through either using a needle or, whatever you can to guide it through. It's very, very, very simple and easy to do, and that makes your zine a little bit more eye-catching. Here's another example. This zine, I love this zine. I found this at a bookstore in my city, and it's called Hey Stranger, and it's all about body piercings. And obviously from the cover you could see that this ear is pierced up, but they also decided to bind it with a little mini piercing. And I thought that was a good way to be able to show people what your zine is about, add a little bit of personality, and it's so cheeky, it's so fun. Yes, they do go and reinforce with staples to make it more secure, because otherwise, if it was just this, the paper would fly around. Like, I could already see why they had to do this to make sure that it stayed put, but adding this is such a cute little touch. It's like the zine has a piercing of its own. I think that's adorable. So this is another way that you can draw attention or even elaborate onto your zine. This definitely shows me what the zine is all about. And this one was actually made in 1992 by Stephanie Kulick, I'm so sorry, I can't see it, but if you can read that. Another aspect that I think this is really cool has nothing to do with the bind, but they kissed the back of it and put tape over it to preserve the kiss. So when I got this, I was so stoked, because I was like, oh my gosh, this person, Stephanie, kissed the back of this zine, and it's 31 years old. That's as old as I am. I mean, I'm 30 years old. I was born in 93, but I think that's really amazing. That's really cool. So I guess that's just another way that you can add life to your zines. Like, this lives on forever. This kiss, when she was making the zine, how passionate she felt about it, I can feel that through the kiss, and also just by adding this little detail. That it's like extra effort that goes a long way and is very appreciated by people that are reading your zines. And here's another zine I really enjoy, and I love their zine so much. It's called The Feminine Urge to Be a Man, and they bound this. So this is a mini zine. So when you create mini zines, you don't really need to bind them at all, because it binds itself if you're familiar with that process. I'll link a video in the description that shows you how to make a zine out of one sheet of paper. So when you do it that way, you don't really need to bind it, but you can definitely embellish how it looks, right? So this creator used lace and hot glued it over the spine, and that just reinforces it so it lasts a little bit longer. Even when I'm flipping through the zine, I could feel how strong this base is, because it just goes right back to closed. I don't know if that makes sense, but usually when you open a mini zine, it could stay open. This one, when you open it, any page, it flips right back to closed, and I know it's because it's reinforced through the hot glue and the lace. So if that's an aspect of zines that you like, then you could definitely experiment with this. Experiment with putting stuff on the spine, embellishing it, embellish the way that you bind it. It all adds a lot of personality, and I think it makes your zines a lot more interesting. So if you're feeling a little bit insecure, thinking like nobody's gonna want to read my zine, this is cool ways that you can spruce it up so people at least, you know, take a second look, they take a second glance. Oh, and I was gonna add another cool way that I love that people bind their zines is by using a safety pin. So here's another mini zine. Like I said, if you see this, you know that you don't have to bind it because it's created with one sheet of paper. So when you create a mini zine using one sheet of paper, it self-binds. So you don't need staples, you don't need anything really to reinforce the bind. But if you want to make it look more punk or make it look more cool, this is something that I really like on zines, is that some people use a safety pin. And you can use this on the bigger zines as well. But this is another way that you can bind your zine that I think adds a lot of diversity to it. It makes it look really cool. And I don't know, if I saw something like this, I would definitely pick it up for that safety pin alone, and it would draw my attention. On to our second point on how you can spruce up your zine making is to add more value by adding freebies. And I don't mean just giving stuff out for free, but I mean just making it more interactive, right? So here's an example of one of mine. Here's the zine that I made, and I also include 3 of these little stickers. One of Kuromi holding up a sign that says I make zines, another one of a glitch Kuromi that I really thought was cool, so I designed that on Procreate and made a sticker out of it, and then one I made of Kuromi laying down making her very own zine, which I think is really cute. So when people pick up the zine, they're not only seeing why I love Kuromi so much and why she's my favorite character, aspects of her personality that I really like, I also include the stickers, which gives more value. And another way that I add value to my zines is sometimes I add a secret poster to the back of the mini zines. So if you unfold this, you'll see that I have a poster on the back that has zine affirmations, and it's the same design of the sticker of Kuromi making zines laying down, which I think is really cute. So this also adds value to my zines. It's another little freebie aspect that if someone wanted to use this as a poster for inspiration, they can. They could put this up on their wall, they could put this up at their desk, they could put this up anywhere to remind them that their zines are worthy and to affirm that they make good zines. So stickers is a great way to add more value. That's what this creator does. This is a Little Shop of Horrors inspired character zine, and it says look out, and it has some characters from that movie. If you're a fan of this movie, you're gonna really like this fanzine because it also serves as a coloring zine, which adds a lot of value. So this is another freebie aspect because you're buying the zine, sure, but also, if you wanted to, you can color this in. And coloring is very therapeutic. It's a very great exercise to relieve stress, and I think that it adds a lot of value to the zine. And I think it also comes with a sticker, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, see? This one comes with a sticker too. Okay, so another aspect of adding more value to your zines is creating an interactive experience for your reader. So these zines that I got from a zine trade absolutely blew me away because it's a folder of all of their zines. So not only am I receiving their zine trade, but they're making me more interested in them because the way that they're presenting it, right? Here's a little pocket for their tiny origami flea zine. Here's another one for their zine, Is It Cannibalism? Which honestly, I suggest everyone read this. I thought this was very enlightening, very interesting, and very humorous. They also included some stickers and more zines. There's just a lot of zines in here. Frozen in Time. There's a sticker, Crazy Stupid Desperate. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that sticker. So that's really cool. And then when you flip it over, there is more zines. And you could tell that this is hand created, that they glued this on there to be able to create that little pocket. LA Nights in this little pocket. And then I am able to organize all their zines in this little folder. This, to me, screams someone that loves the craft of making zines and just loves paper crafts, working with their hands, and it's very thoughtful. I really, really, really cherish this zine and the way that it's presented and the way that it's organized, and it's very touching. It's very thoughtful, and I think that will draw a lot of people into your zines is by giving them more value than just the zines themselves. This is not saying that your zine isn't worthy on its own, but if you're looking to spruce it up a little bit and make it a little bit more interesting, the zine folder is a really good idea. And I do have a tutorial on how you can make your own own zine folder. It's a little bit different than this one. I have my own version of making it with a couple of envelopes that I duct tape together. If you're interested in that, that'll be in the description as well. And here is another aspect of creating zines that give value, or what I like to call freebies, because, you know, they're not necessarily free. It's not like you're not charging more for creating stuff like this, but it does give more than what's expected. When someone reads a zine, they're expecting to read something that you put together, whether it's research, whether your zine is informational, a personal zine, whatever. You expect to read it, consume it, and then be done with it, right? But these are all interactive in their own way. And this one is a really interesting concept that I want to share with you. This one is called Good Girl by Daria Clark. And what I really like about this particular zine is that it's so interactive to the point where you can fill in like this is your own journal. Even in the beginning, it says this journal belongs to, and then there's a little note from the author, from the zine maker. It says, I dedicate this book to all the girls who simultaneously feel like they're too much and not enough. How relatable is that? That is very vulnerable, very relatable. And I feel like when you're going through it, you get to learn a little bit about the creator, of course. You get to read, you get to experience everything you would in a zine, but then you can also participate. That is giving value, that is making it more interesting, and that is giving your reader a reason to buy your zine, read your zine, trade with you. You know, this adds a lot of value. I want to be involved. Break that fourth wall and invite your community to participate in the zine with you. I think that's really special. I think that this is another great way that you can make your zines a little bit more interesting, and I hope that you guys implement these into your zines. And the last tip that I would give to spruce up your zines is just by adding a bit more of yourself into them. Whether you're making a zine about something out in the real world, right? Like whether you have to do research and make an informational zine where you're teaching someone about something, whether you're making a historical zine because you're talking about the history of something, whether you're making a personal zine like the one I'm going to show you right now, it's always a good idea to show yourself in your work, because oftentimes when people read about your experiences, someone out there will be able to relate, and that makes people feel closer to your work and closer to you. And I don't know, I just always love reading a Perzine, which is, Perzine just means personal zine, and it's a zine that reflects the lived experiences of the creator. I'm a Perzine queen. I love Perzines because it's a way that you're able to express your feelings and emotions about a particular thing in your life that you went through. You can give your own insights to certain things, and it's just very personal. It's very vulnerable. If I could give any advice, I would just invite you to try to be more vulnerable in your zines and share a little bit more about your perspective. And like I said before, even if it's an informational zine, you can still incorporate your own experiences into that and how you can relate to the topic at hand. You don't only have to make Perzines in order to be vulnerable. You can add vulnerability into almost anything at all, because we're all humans and we all share the same experience. So I think that makes your zines a lot more relatable, and it's just something that draws in a certain type of person like me. Like, I really enjoy getting deep. I enjoy talking to people about their life experiences, their traumas. You know, I really enjoy doing that with my friends and family. So that's what I tend to do in my Perzines. This is one of my most popular ones. It's called Oh, the Places You'll Cry, a guide to downtown Long Beach through tears. And this is a zine about different places that I've cried in public. I was surprised that a lot of people could relate to this experience. They could relate to either crying in public or holding back tears in public. And so that drew a lot of people to my zine. Also, what drew people was the play on the Dr. Seuss title, because this is not an original idea. This is something that was inspired by the Dr. Seuss book, Oh, the Places You Will Go. So I feel like that's another thing you can incorporate into your zine work, is just playing on things that already exist. If you make a spin on something in pop culture, but do it in your own way, it does draw people in initially because that's familiar, but then surprise them with the content inside. Be very original with what you share on the inside. And that's what I did with this zine. I just described different places that I've cried, and then I rated my cries. So it looks like I'm rating the establishment, the place, but I'm actually rating how good the cry was and what I learned from that experience. Here on the first page, I cried outside of this coffee shop called the Library Coffee House, and then I rated the cry 3 stars because I was like, wow, it felt like such such a rush to cry in public, but nobody knew. I actually went out into an alleyway to cry, so I was away from everybody in the coffee shop, but it was a thrill. And I was like, ooh, I kind of like being able to cry outside of the comfort of my own room or the comfort of my own home. And then I have one, this one is a 1-star cry because I give all this context about why it was 1 star, what I was going through. I think it really entertains people. It really either made people laugh or maybe they felt like they could relate to the context and they felt emotional as well. So this is another way that you can draw people in to your zines, is just by giving yourself a little bit more to your reader. It's hard. It's not easy to do. And that's the whole purpose of this video, right? Is that we're afraid that people may not read it. And what if we just shared so much and then it just goes rejected, or, you know, someone throws our zine away, you know? I think it's always worth it to share because you never know. There's always a person that can read this and be like, thank you for sharing that perspective. This is exactly what I'm going through. And it's so nice to hear someone else that went through that experience and got through it. It gives people confidence. It gives people reassurance and confirmation that they're on the right path, you know? And I felt like this zine really resonated with a lot of people because when they look at me now, I'm not like out crying in public all the time. Like, this was definitely a low period of my life, and me sharing it with other people really helped inspire them through their tough times. And on the back here, I include a letter. This is so vulnerable. Honestly, now that I'm saying this, I'm like, yeah, be vulnerable. But I'm like, oh my gosh, this letter on the back is very, very vulnerable. Like I said before, it's always worth it. It's always worth it to share because you could be helping someone. And during this time, I was broke, like dead broke, no money at all. I was like, how am I going to pay rent? I'm living with someone that we already just decided, like, we talked about how we're not in love with each other anymore. And like, there's so many things about this letter to myself, or this journal. It's a journal entry, actually. There's so many vulnerable things listed in this journal entry that's very revealing of me and my thoughts and my feelings. So many times people have said, I read that letter in the back and I cried because I went through that too, and I got fired from my job and I had no money and I didn't have any health insurance. Yeah, guys, I get really vulnerable in my zines, but like I'm saying, this adds value. People get to see a little bit of insight into your life. I also include a free sticker too. This is another, like, going into the second tip about giving out freebies. I also include a sticker of the title because I think it's really cute, and people walk away feeling like they got a lot out of the zine. And I think that's something I would definitely suggest you guys try to implement into your zines, is just being a little bit more vulnerable. Yes, it's uncomfy, but I think it'll draw in a community that either can relate or has gone through something like this or is going through something like this. And that creates really beautiful connections between the zine maker and the zine reader. Because I like to think of zines as a two-way process, you know, a two-way street. I don't just make zines, you read it, you give me, you know, some money, and then you're just like, okay, cool. Like, I hope that you walk away reading my work, having learned something. Maybe your perspective changes. That's what I think all of these tips implement into your zine work, is not only tricking people into looking at your zine twice and maybe possibly reading it or purchasing it, but it also helps them know in this grand scheme of things in life, they're not alone. And we're gonna go back to previous recording Bree. There's a Bree waiting for you guys to wrap all of this up. So we're gonna go talk to her right now. So welcome back. What'd you think? Did you like my tips? Oh, you can't even see my eyebrows. Did you like my tips? Well, I hope that you did. I hope that those 3 tips help you feel excited about your work again. And I hope that you understand what I was trying to articulate to you earlier on in the video when I had all the disclaimers about doing the self-work. Like I said before, I know that that sounds really heavy and like extra work to do on top of being a creative, but it's so necessary in order to accept yourself. And when you accept yourself, you'll share it. And I'm not saying you're gonna share it and think you're the best thing since sliced bread, but you're gonna share it when you're scared. You're gonna share it when you're unsure. You're gonna share it when you're insecure, and that builds confidence within yourself, and it helps you learn that you can do hard things. I'm just spiritual, okay? I think everything in my life I can use as spiritual practice, and that's how I feel about my zines. If I share them scared, what does that teach me? If I share them when I'm feeling insecure or unsure about how it'll be perceived, okay, now that's good. Let's see what we get. Let's see if we get rejected. Let's see if people hate it. Let's see if people love it. And what can that teach me about myself? I think every creative, every artist should use their shortcomings and their weaknesses as ways to strengthen your inner confidence. You're you. If you liked my tips, please let me know. Let me know what you're going to incorporate into your zines. And if you have tips, please leave a comment because your opinion matters. I think it's really going to help other zine makers and other artists in general. I'm going to assume everybody that watches my channel is nice and good. And so I think we could all help each other out here by leaving comments for each other, using the comment section as a community board. That's it, guys. Until next time. Bye.